May 18th, 1536. The Tower of London sleeps under a veil of fog, its stones slick with rain and memory. From the courtyard, a faint clatter of chains echoes through the corridors. Somewhere behind those walls, in a small, candlelit chamber, the most infamous woman in England kneels before a wooden crucifix. Her name is Anne Boleyn, once Queen of England, now a prisoner waiting to die at dawn. But tonight, death is not what haunts her most. The guards have withdrawn. The nuns sent to comfort her whisper prayers outside the door. The flicker of a single candle trembles against the damp wall. Anne's hands are clasped, not in prayer, but in defiance, still adorned with the calluses of the woman who once gripped a crown too tightly. She murmurs to herself, "He was my heaven, and he became my hell." A soft knock breaks the silence. The door creaks open. In steps Sir William Kingston, the constable of the Tower, a man loyal not to her, but to her husband, the king. His face is pale, his voice trembles. "Your Grace," he says, his tone caught between duty and pity. "A messenger from His Majesty." Anne freezes. Her breath catches. She rises slowly, her white linen gown brushing the cold floor. The sound of the word His Majesty cuts through the air, like the blade that waits for her. Kingston sets a sealed letter on the table, red wax stamped with the Tudor rose. For a heartbeat, she thinks it might be mercy. Perhaps Henry has remembered the woman who once made him laugh, who risked her soul to bear his child, who gave up everything for his love. Perhaps he has decided to spare her, but her fingers hesitate before breaking the seal. The wax cracks, the parchment unfolds, and what she reads is not mercy. It is cruelty, crafted in a hand she once kissed. "Anne," it begins, no title, no tenderness. "Tomorrow, justice will be done. I trust you will meet it with the dignity that once made me love you. Pray not for life, but for grace. Let your death be the peace you denied me in life." Her eyes blur. Her breath stutters. She reads it again, slower this time, as if the words might change if she gave them the chance. But they don't. They remain sharp, deliberate, final. King Henry VIII has not written to forgive her. He has written to control her one last time. Anne sinks into the chair beside her bed, the parchment trembling in her hands. Her lips move without sound. For the first time, her composure falters. Outside her chamber, the guards hear a low sound. Not quite a sob, not quite a prayer. It is the sound of something breaking that had refused to break before. She remembers the night he first told her she would be queen. The candlelight on his face, his voice whispering, "You and I against the world." He had meant it, for a time. She had believed it. She had worn his promise like armor. Now, it feels like poison. Above the tower, the wind howls. The city beyond sleeps, unaware that by sunrise, England's queen will have no head, and her daughter, a red-haired toddler named Elizabeth, will become the orphan of ambition. Anne stands, clutching the letter to her chest. She laughs softly, a dry, bitter sound that startles even her. "So this is how he loves," she whispers. "Even in farewell, he must command me." Her maid, Margaret Wyatt, enters quietly. "My lady," she says gently, "shall I take it away?" Anne shakes her head. "No, let it stay. Let it remind me what kind of man can turn a crown into a curse." The maid hesitates, then leaves her alone again. Anne walks to the narrow window of her cell. The moon glints off the Thames like a blade. In the courtyard below, carpenters are hammering. She knows what they are building, a scaffold, her scaffold. The rhythm of the hammers is steady, cruelly calm. Every strike is a heartbeat counting down the hours left to her name. She presses her forehead against the glass. "They will say I died for lust," she murmurs. "They will say I bewitched him." She closes her eyes. But no spell could be stronger than his vanity. The candlelight flickers. The parchment on the table shifts in the draught, curling like a dying leaf. The words, "Let your death be your obedience," seem to stare back at her. For a moment, she almost pities him. A king who traded love for fear, who needed power to feel whole. Almost. She kneels again before the crucifix. But this time, her prayer is not for deliverance. It is for clarity. "Lord," she whispers, "grant me a heart that does not tremble before the cruelty of men. Let my end be quieter than their conscience." Somewhere beyond the walls, a night watchman calls out the hour. Midnight. 9 hours until the sword. Anne takes the letter, folds it carefully, and tucks it beneath her pillow. If Henry meant to haunt her, he has succeeded, but not as he intended. His words will not break her. They will make her final acts sharper than his vengeance. Serenity. She lies down, her hands folded across her chest. The candle burns low. In the corridor, Kingston waits, unable to sleep. He will later tell the chroniclers that the Queen laughed softly through the night, as one who had made peace with her soul. But it was not peace. It was defiance in disguise. Outside, the first birds begin to sing over the gray Thames. The executioner has been summoned from France. The scaffold glistens with dew. The letter beneath her pillow is still warm from her touch. The last conversation between a king and a queen, whose love story began with desire and ends with cruelty. At dawn, Anne Boleyn will step into legend. But on this night, her final night, she is not a legend. She is a woman reading the words of a man who once called her his salvation and now names her his sin. And in that moment, the world learned something far more terrible than her death. That King Henry VIII did not just kill his wife. He killed the last piece of himself capable of love. Winter sunlight spilled through the diamond-paned windows of Whitehall Palace, setting the gold thread in Anne Boleyn's gown ablaze. Courtiers bowed as she passed, but even their murmured praise could not outshine the spark in her eyes. She was not the most beautiful woman in England, not in the conventional sense, but she was the most alive. Her words struck like arrows, her laughter lingered, her wit dared where others curtsied. In an age when queens were meant to be silent ornaments, Anne was thunder disguised as silk. She had returned from the French court years earlier with a mind sharpened by Renaissance ideals and a confidence foreign to English women. She could debate scripture with theologians and match poets line for line. It was that fire, not her face, that caught the king's attention. Henry VIII was 34 then, still broad-shouldered, golden-haired, and desperate for a son. His marriage to Queen Catherine of Aragon had produced only one surviving child, Mary, and a string of dead infants. The Tudor dynasty hung by a thread. When Henry first noticed Anne in the service of Queen Catherine, she was the sister of his former mistress, a woman no one expected to outshine the king's lovers. But Anne's refusal became her power. She would not yield to him as her sister had. She wrote him letters instead, elegant, teasing, guarded, letters that denied him what he craved most, surrender. In a court ruled by flattery, defiance was intoxicating. Soon, the king's gaze followed her everywhere. He abandoned his hunts early to find her at banquets, whispered promises in chapel corridors, sent gifts wrapped in secrecy. Anne accepted them all, but never the man himself. "Your Majesty," she once wrote, "your heart I desire, not your title." Those words changed history. For Henry, love became an obsession. What began as pursuit turned into purpose. The King of England would undo the very foundations of Christendom to have her. Advisors warned him, bishops pleaded, his queen wept. But Henry saw in Anne the promise of renewal, of youth, of the male heir God had denied him. In her, he believed he saw divine favor. Years of negotiation and defiance followed. The Pope refused Henry's request to annul his marriage to Catherine. Rome declared his desire unlawful, immoral, unthinkable. Henry answered with rebellion. He rejected papal authority, declared himself supreme head of the Church of England, and cast off centuries of obedience to Rome. The world watched in disbelief as a monarch tore down a 1,000-year institution, not for faith, but for love. By 1533, Anne was secretly pregnant. The king's urgency turned desperate. If the child were a boy, the Tudor future was secured. Henry married her in secret, then in public, and had her crowned Queen of England in a ceremony unmatched in splendor. The bells of London rang for hours, the Thames glistened with banners, and thousands watched as she walked barefoot up the coronation aisle, her dark eyes fixed on the golden crown waiting for her. For a moment, Anne truly was England's miracle. She had defied the world and won. But miracles are brief in Tudor England. The child she bore that September was not the son Henry expected. It was a daughter, a red-haired infant named Elizabeth. The king smiled for the cameras of history, but those close to the court saw it. The tightening jaw, the silence that followed. The blessing had become a disappointment before the midwives left the chamber. Still, Anne refused to fade. She ruled the court like a comet, dazzling and unpredictable. She patronized scholars, introduced French fashion, and argued theology with Henry himself. She spoke of reform, of scripture, of a purified church. To her allies, she was a new kind of queen, intelligent, articulate, a partner in governance. To her enemies, she was arrogance in pearls. The courtiers began to whisper. They said she was too proud, too ambitious. They mocked her temper, her laughter, her foreign ways. Henry's counselors, led by Thomas Cromwell, fed his doubts in careful doses. They reminded him that queens were meant to bear sons, not opinions. By 1535, the same court that had bowed to her began to step back. Every miscarriage became another nail in her crown. The king's warmth cooled. The banquets grew quieter. Even music in her chambers sounded like waiting. Anne sensed the change before anyone dared speak it. She saw it in the way Henry's eyes no longer lingered. She saw it in his new fascination, Jane Seymour, pale, modest, soft-spoken. The perfect antidote to Anne's fire. One evening, as she dined with her ladies, she said softly, "I raised a storm to sit beside a sun. I should have known that storms don't last." Outside, London was changing. The monasteries were being dissolved, priests driven out, wealth confiscated, all under the new church Henry had created for her. Yet Anne, the woman for whom it was all done, stood increasingly alone. Her allies dwindled. Her enemies grew powerful. In the spring of 1536, tragedy struck again. Anne miscarried a son. The child was born dead, deformed, some whispered. Henry's grief turned to fury. "I see that God will not give me sons by her," he told Cromwell. "We must think on what is to be done." Within weeks, what is to be done became conspiracy. Cromwell, once her supporter, began building a case. Rumors of infidelity spread like wildfire. Names were listed, poets, musicians, even her own brother. The queen who had been the king's obsession was about to become his scapegoat. Yet in those final months before her arrest, Anne did not retreat. She still carried herself like the woman who had once made kings tremble. When Henry confronted her coldly across the great hall, she met his gaze without fear. "You may close your heart to me," she said, "but you will never silence my name." He did not reply. Soon, she would trade her gowns for prison linen. The crown that once glittered above her brow would be replaced by a white coif. But for now, in memory, she remains radiant. The woman for whom a king defied God, a queen who believed passion could rewrite history. And perhaps it did. Because long after her blood stained the Tower green, her daughter, the child Henry dismissed as disappointment, would rise as Elizabeth I, one of the greatest rulers England ever knew. But on the eve of her fall, Anne could not see that far ahead. She saw only the shrinking distance between power and peril, between the throne and the block. The same ambition that had lifted her beyond every woman in England now cast her into the shadow of her own triumph. In the end, her tragedy was not that she wanted too much, but that she believed a man like Henry VIII could give it. He had promised her the world, and she had believed him. May 2nd, 1536. The Queen of England was summoned not to court, but to the Tower. Anne Boleyn arrived by barge. The same river route that had once carried her in triumph to her coronation. This time, the crowds were silent. No trumpets, no cheers. Only water lapping against stone and guards who wouldn't meet her eyes. She stepped onto the wharf with her head held high, her gown damp with spray, her lips parted but silent. She was 35, and she understood now. Kings do not divorce their queens. They destroy them. She was escorted to the queen's lodgings, not a prison cell, but no longer a palace. There she waited, not knowing who had betrayed her or why the ground had vanished beneath her feet so quickly. But she would learn. Thomas Cromwell had moved against her. The charges were staggering: adultery, incest, treason. They said she had slept with 5 men, one of them her brother. They said she had plotted to kill the king. They said she had seduced musicians, courtiers, and poets. No one believed it, not really. But belief had nothing to do with it. Henry wanted her gone. Cromwell delivered the paperwork. Her arrest had been prepared like a stage play, each name selected, each accusation rehearsed. Her supposed lovers, Henry Norris, Sir Francis Weston, William Brereton, Mark Smeaton, and her brother George Boleyn, were taken in one by one. Smeaton broke first. Under torture, he confessed. The others denied everything. It didn't matter. Confession was unnecessary. Their fate had been written the moment Henry looked away. Anne remained in the Tower for 17 days. In those days, she prayed, she wept, she laughed. Some guards said she went mad. Others said she was more lucid than she had ever been. The king has always been a man who preferred new toys, she told her lady-in-waiting. I am simply being replaced. The trial was held on May 15th in the Great Hall of the Tower itself. A cruel symmetry. Anne Boleyn, Queen of England, was tried before a jury of 26 peers. Presiding over the trial was her uncle, the Duke of Norfolk. The crown she once wore had not shielded her from politics. It had made her their target. She entered the court in a simple gown, no jewels, no crown. Her dark hair was braided modestly. Her eyes, they said, blazed. When asked how she pleaded, she replied, "Not guilty, my lords." Her voice did not tremble. The accusations were read aloud: that she had seduced Mark Smeaton in her private chambers, that she had committed incest with her brother, that she had plotted the king's death, that she had bewitched Henry from the beginning. She stood silent through most of it, as if the air itself would choke on the lies. But when her voice came, it was fire. "Never have I offended with my body against His Majesty," she said. "I have been a faithful wife, though not always a silent one." The court was still. She looked to the Duke of Norfolk, her own blood, and said, "You preside over the ruin of your kin. May God grant you more mercy than you show me." The evidence was laughable. Dates and places that did not match. Alleged trysts that occurred when Anne was pregnant or not even in residence. But truth was no longer welcome. The trial was theater. Cromwell had written the script, and the players knew their lines. The witnesses were carefully chosen. The jury was carefully instructed. And somewhere, beyond the thick stone walls, King Henry waited. Not for justice, but for justification. By the end, it was only a matter of formality. Anne turned to the jury. "I do not ask for your pity, only your honesty. I stand accused not for what I have done, but for what I represent. I gave England a queen who thought and spoke and dared. And for that, I must die." Her brother George stood trial separately. He too was accused of incest and treason. His defense was bold, his words pointed. "You ask if I laid with the queen," he said. "I tell you this. My conscience is cleaner than the hands that brought me here." He too was condemned. The verdict was delivered without ceremony. Guilty. Anne received it without flinching. She looked to the vaulted ceiling of the hall, the same beams beneath which she had once danced as queen, and whispered, "Father, into thy hands I commend my spirit." The words echoed, quiet, steady, final. As she was led away, she passed Cromwell. Their eyes met for the briefest of moments. He nodded, not in respect, but in confirmation. He had done what the king required. The tower gates closed behind her. She would never step outside them again. In private, Henry showed no grief. He wore white and gold to court that day. He played tennis while the verdict was read. He dined with Jane Seymour the evening his wife was condemned. To his courtiers, he called Anne a serpent, a whore, a witch. "Now," he said, "I am delivered from her enchantments." But in the privacy of his chambers, some said, he drank alone that night. Others said he wrote nothing in his diary. Silence, the only honesty he could afford. Anne spent her final days in preparation. She wrote letters, she prayed, she forgave. She asked for a French swordsman, not an English axe. She did not beg. She did not plead. Her only request was that Elizabeth, her daughter, be protected. On the evening before her death, she told her chaplain, "Never did I think the crown would cost me my life. But I wore it well for the time I had." And she had. She was not the wife Henry wanted. She was the queen he could not control. And now, stripped of her crown, her dignity bruised but unbroken, she faced the one court that could not be swayed: eternity. What they judged her for was not what she did, but who she dared to be. A queen with a voice, a woman with ambition. A fire they thought they could extinguish with a verdict. But Anne Boleyn would not be erased. Not by the court, not by the king, and not by the silence that followed her sentence. May 18th, 1536, nightfall. The sky over London was low and restless, a sheet of charcoal stretching over the city's crooked rooftops. Inside the tower, torches hissed in the damp wind. Their light flickered against ancient stone, casting long shadows through the Queen's lodgings. And inside that cold chamber, Behind a thick oak door and iron lock, Anne Boleyn sat on the edge of her narrow bed, waiting for the end. She had worn white that day, not because she hoped for mercy, but because she had already surrendered to the truth. She would not leave the tower alive, but she would leave it remembered. Her fingers, pale and still, were folded in her lap. A single candle burned beside her. The wax had dripped into a twisted sculpture of ruin, beautiful and melting. Her breathing was slow, measured, too calm for a woman who had watched her life unravel in 3 weeks. Then came the knock. It was soft, almost respectful. Sir William Kingston stepped inside, bearing no sword, no guard, only a small black box sealed with red wax. His eyes didn't rise to meet hers. "His Majesty has sent something," he said carefully. Anne stood without a word. Her bare feet brushed against the cold flagstone. She took the box from his hands. He waited, as if hoping she wouldn't open it. She did. Inside, a single ring. Gold, engraved with Henry's motto, "Bound to obey and serve." It was the ring he had given her before their marriage, the one he had once kissed and called his soul's anchor. She stared at it for a long moment. Then, underneath the ring, a folded note. She opened it. The writing was unmistakable. It was his. Anne -- tomorrow, let your death be your only obedience. Do not scream. Do not resist. Let them see that you were never more queenly than in silence. Do this, and I will see Elizabeth cared for. No signature, no farewell, no mention of love, only control. Anne's throat closed. The paper slipped from her hand and landed at her feet. She didn't cry. She didn't speak. She only stood there, shoulders tense, eyes wet, jaw locked against the scream rising inside her. Kingston watched quietly. Then, bowing, he left. Alone again, Anne turned back to the candle. The shadows danced across the wall like ghosts in the fog. She picked up the ring, turned it in her fingers, then laid it beside her. She looked at it as if it were a mirror reflecting everything he had promised and everything he had broken. For hours she said nothing, not even when the wind howled through the cracks in the window, not even when the clock struck midnight. She sat motionless, surrounded by silence, her thoughts louder than any prayer. Somewhere in Whitehall Palace, King Henry dined with Jane Seymour. They say he laughed that night, loudly, cruelly, toasting to a new beginning. But others say something changed after the wine, that he retired early, that he dismissed his companions without reason, that he wandered the halls alone. A servant claimed he heard the king whispering, "She should have obeyed." Another claimed he heard a different whisper, "What have I done?" But none of that reached Anne. What reached her were memories. His voice in the garden, promising her a crown. His fingers brushing her cheek as he whispered, "You will give me sons." His hand, trembling the night Elizabeth was born, when he realized she hadn't. The sharp shift in his eyes when she miscarried. The colder kisses, the silent meals. She remembered them all. And yet she did not hate him. Hate would have been easier. Instead, she lit a second candle and knelt, not to pray for life. That was long past. She prayed for peace, for her daughter, for those who would carry her story forward. Margaret Wyatt, her childhood friend and final lady-in-waiting, entered quietly. She found Anne still kneeling, lips moving. "My lady," she whispered, "you should rest." Anne looked up. Her eyes were dry now. There will be rest enough tomorrow. Margaret knelt beside her, took her hand. Do you want me to remove the ring? Anne shook her head. No. Let it lie beside me. Let history remember whose silence he feared. She asked for no food, only the Psalms. She recited them aloud, voice soft, clear, unshaking. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. The words did not feel borrowed, they felt earned. She asked for one final letter to Elizabeth. She dictated it slowly. My sweet child, you will hear lies. Do not believe them. Know that your mother loved you beyond reason. Be bold, be wise, be better than both your parents. And if ever you wear a crown, wear it lightly. Margaret wept as she wrote. Anne did not. By 3 a.m., she rose, washed her face, braided her hair, laid out the gown she would wear to the scaffold, a deep crimson underdress, a gray robe above. She chose no jewels, only a cross. The ring remained on the table. The note was gone, burned in the candle flame until only ash remained. I will not take his final words with me, she said quietly. By sunrise, the courtyard would fill with guards and witnesses. The swordsman from Calais would await her. The crowd would fall silent. But in these last hours, Anne did not rehearse a final speech. She did not collapse. She did not rage. She whispered. She forgave. She forgave Henry, not because he deserved it, but because she refused to carry him into eternity. She forgave Cromwell, because he would live longer, and that would be punishment enough. She forgave even the people, because they would mourn her in time. At 5:30 a.m., she stood, breathed deeply, and said to Margaret, "Now I am ready." Her final night was over. The letter was gone. The ring remained. And with it, the knowledge that the last message Henry sent was not love nor regret, but a command for obedience, in death, as he had demanded in life. He never freed her. She freed herself. And by dawn, the world would watch the quiet triumph of a queen who had been told to die with grace, and chose to live with it instead. May 19th, 1536. Dawn broke pale and windless over the Tower Green. The scaffold stood ready, fresh boards laid, swept clean of dust. No headsman's block, no axe. Instead, a low platform with straw scattered at its base. A French swordsman stood nearby, dressed in black, his long blade hidden beneath his cloak. He had been promised gold and silence. He had only one task: to kill the queen cleanly. At 8 a.m., the crowd gathered. Courtiers, guards, ambassadors. Some came from duty, some came for spectacle. All came to witness the death of a woman who had once bent a king to her will. Anne Boleyn appeared at 8:15. She wore crimson beneath a dark gray cloak, her hair braided beneath a white linen cap. She walked without assistance. No trembling, no collapse. Only silence, her back straight, her gaze steady. The moment she stepped onto the scaffold, the murmurs stopped. She turned to the crowd, looked them in the eye, and spoke. Good Christian people, I come here not to accuse any man, nor to speak of that whereof I am accused and condemned to die. But I die the king's faithful wife and a true woman to my God. No bitterness, no protest, just grace. The very grace Henry had demanded in his letter. She knelt, removed her cap, tucked her hair beneath the cloth so it would not interfere with the blade, whispered a final prayer. To Jesus Christ, I commend my soul. She began to repeat it, Jesus, receive my soul. O Lord God, have pity on. She never finished. The swordsman cried out to distract her, "Bring me the sword," and struck while she looked away. Her head fell cleanly, her body collapsed beside it. The Queen of England was dead. There was no cheer, only a stunned silence, broken by the cries of her ladies. One gathered Anne's head in a linen cloth. Another covered her with the cloak she had worn to die. No royal ceremony followed, no hymns, just a makeshift coffin and a grave in the chapel of St. Peter ad Vincula, unmarked for decades. And within hours, King Henry VIII was riding to Jane Seymour. The same day his second wife was buried, he began the courtship of his third. To Henry's court, Anne was erased, her portraits removed, her motto, "The most happy," discarded, her name seldom spoken. But erasure never lasts. Whispers remained of how the trial had been rigged, of how the charges were manufactured, of how the Queen had died, not for what she did, but for who she dared to be. Years passed. Elizabeth, the daughter Anne had left behind, would ascend the throne and reign for 44 years. She never spoke of her mother publicly, but she wore Anne's ring. She kept her mother's motto etched into a locket. And when she stood before Parliament in her coronation robes, she did so as the living vengeance of the woman Henry tried to forget. History eventually gave Anne Boleyn back her voice. Modern scholars uncovered trial records, letters, personal notes. What they found was not a seductress, not a witch, but a woman ahead of her time. A queen who thought, spoke, dared. A woman who learned too late that in the hands of a king, love could become a sentence. And what of the letter? The one that arrived the night before? Some believed it was Henry's final act of cruelty. Others believed it was guilt, twisted into command. A parting demand that she die on his terms, not hers. But Anne's death proved something else entirely. She was not his subject, not even in death. She died with more dignity than the man who ordered it. She forgave more deeply than the man who betrayed her. She left behind not shame, but legacy. And in doing so, she became something Henry never could be: timeless. If this story made you question everything you thought you knew about love, power, and history, hit that like button. If Anne Boleyn's final night left you stunned, heartbroken, or inspired, drop a comment. Was her greatest weapon her voice, or her silence? And if you want to know what happened to the woman Henry married next, and how Jane Seymour's death haunted him until the grave, subscribe and turn on notifications, because the next chapter of Tudor history is even more chilling. Mercy may be remembered, but silence, once broken, becomes legend.